Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. For today's video, we are going to share with you 3 topics. Number 1, the advantages and disadvantages of renting and owning a property here in Canada.
And then we'll talk about our experience being landlords.
And number 3, we're going to talk about how much we are paying for the mortgage as well as the share of our renter. Also, we are going to share with you the 2 properties that we looked at 2 weeks ago that we haven't shared with you yet. First one on our list, let's talk about the renting advantages and disadvantages. So the advantage of being a renter is you don't have to worry about the repairs.
Anything. You have to worry about your damage deposit, but the repairs to the home itself, like if the plumbing breaks or if the electricity goes out or if there's like a flood, it's not your responsibility. You need to worry about your stuff, but not the house.
Yeah, I remember when we were at our first place, when we were renting, there was a huge flood. That house is a very old house, that's why it doesn't have a really good drainage. I think the drainage was already bad. So when it flooded, we called the caretaker, or was it the owner?
There was a caretaker.
Yeah, the caretaker, and we didn't have to worry about it. And it was a really stinky carpet.
Yes.
Yeah,
that
because it was
a very old carpet.
A very old carpet.
Yeah. Another advantage is you just have to pay the rent. So you don't have to worry about saving up for a down payment for the home. If you can afford the rent and you get into a place, you just pay the rent and you're good.
Yeah, so I think that's it. Now let's talk about the disadvantages of renting a place here in Canada. Number 1, which is really obvious, is
you're paying somebody else's mortgage.
Yeah, that money, you won't see that again. It's going to pay the house that you're renting, and we're going to expand that when we talk about the advantage of being an owner of a property here.
And the second thing is you really can't make any customizations to the house, so you can go about as far as painting, but that's about it. So no renovating, nothing like that. You're basically stuck with the home as is.
Aside from what James had mentioned, you can't also just invite somebody if that person wants to stay with you, or you can't bring your cat or dogs, or you can't smoke. So there's a lot of rules that you have to follow when you are renting a place.
That depends on the landlord.
Yeah, that depends on the landlord. And now let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of being an owner of the house.
You build your own equity. So your home is an investment. When you're paying money into it, you're not necessarily losing that money.
So for example, with the 2 properties that we had before, we built equities for those. That's why we're able to afford this house, because we made money on our condo, our first property, and also our second property, which was the townhouse.
With Vancouver being crazy, we were able to probably level up a little faster than we normally would, but still, because we had those properties, we were able to then afford something much bigger.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, we are very close to Vancouver, Canada, and the property here is very crazy. It's very expensive. But when we bought our first property, it was quite cheap, and after a few years we were able to sell that property and make quite a bit. Number 2 advantage of being an owner is you can do whatever you want. So for example, we can make holes on the walls.
We can do any renovation to the home. So if we want to put in a door or knock down a wall, as long as it doesn't take down the house with it, we can do that.
We have to correct ourselves on that. If you own a condo and a townhouse here in Canada, you cannot do anything you want, because there is a strata, which is the homeowners association, and if you do a renovation, you have to ask their permission. But if you own a detached home just like ours, we can do whatever we want.
Yes, as long as it's up to code.
You need to have a professional person, because if somebody is just doing that, it might be not up to code. Okay, disadvantages, something that we don't like being an owner.
Taxes.
Taxes.
Pay a lot of taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's property taxes. So have to pay tax on our renter as well.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of taxes.
Yeah. And then another disadvantage of being an owner is you need to be a handyman.
Yeah, you do need to learn how to be handy.
Yeah.
I literally had to go and fix a shower head just earlier today. And also a towel rack and a drain. These things just happen, and you have to be able to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
When it gets to be bigger things, you know, you need to be a professional or hire a professional.
I think it depends on the people's preferences if they want to rent and they want to own. But for me, it's better to own a property, even though you have to be a handy person, even though you have to have a down payment. But at the end of the day, you own the place. Here in our area right now, the only difference between an owner and a renter is the down payment.
The balance has been tilted probably so that if you're able to own a home, the monthly payment is probably lower than it would be if you were to just rent the same place.
Yeah, actually that's true, because some of the people I know, their rent is much higher than what we pay per month.
Yeah.
And their place is also much smaller. Okay, so that is for the advantages and disadvantages of being an owner and a renter here in Canada. Before we proceed to the next topic, which is our experience being a landlord, we'll show with you the property that we looked at 2 weeks ago.
Is it owner occupied?
No, it's tenanted by a family member, but they're moving out.
Okay. Did they say renting yet?
Oh, they might have already. No, they said pretty soon, but they'll be vacant.
It's 2 years old. Yeah, it's like it's almost suspect.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's jump into our next topic, which is our experience being a landlord. So James mentioned today that earlier he had to fix a shower head.
Yeah, I had to fix a shower head and just a few other small things. We are now responsible for making sure that the person that's living in our suite has that everything is functioning.
Every now and then, if our renter needs something, then we have to fix.
We also actually getting to the point of having a renter, quite a bit of time to try to find the right person. We're fortunate in that there's not many rental properties here right now, so we did have quite a few people to look for, but under normal circumstances it can probably be a little bit more difficult to find, especially an ideal renter, who I think we definitely have as well, since she's like so quiet.
Yeah, our renter, she's very nice, she's very quiet, and I think one of the reasons as well is we had to do some references. We had to call her employer, we had to call her previous landlord. So far we are lucky with our renter, and she also gave us the gift for baby Jamie when he was born. In her first few weeks here, and she had visitors, she had to tell us like, hey, I have a visitor, and we were like, you don't have to tell us, you have your own space.
I think overall, like, our experience has been positive. I think that you need to set yourself up with the right renter, which can be challenging.
Yeah.
But if you're able to, then it can be really good, I think.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think we can share with them is here, you can't just kick the renter if they're bad. So you have to be very, very careful in choosing a renter, because there's this government, what's that, love?
There's the Residential Tenancy Act. What it comes down to is the tenant or the renter tends to have more rights, we'll say, than the landlord. For example, tenant only needs to give 1 month's notice if they're going to move out. If the landlord wants to evict, then we would have to give 3 months notice, and
a probable cause.
There has to be a cause for it as well.
Yeah.
And she could dispute that, or he or she could dispute that, in which case then it could potentially go before a judge. So it can be a little bit more complicated if you need to remove an unwelcome renter.
There's a lot of things that could happen if you have a renter. Like, for example, here in Canada, marijuana is legal, and if our renter decides to do that, I'm sure she's not gonna do it. But if you have a renter who does marijuana, then it could smell.
It's a strong smell.
Mm-hmm.
You set those ground rules before the person moves in, and it's actually signed in the contract. We've actually written into the contract that there's to be no smoking of anything
Yeah.
in the house, whether it's tobacco or other.
I guess we are lucky with our renter because when we posted it, there's a lot of inquiries. I only posted it for 24 hours and there's 10 people that message us. It came down to 2 people.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and really it was just a judgment call between the two, and I think we made the right call.
Yeah, and our renter, she didn't see our place in person before she moved in because that was the time that it's very strict here. So I was video calling her and I was showing her the suite on the messenger. Okay guys, that is our experience being a landlord. And now let's proceed to...
Before we do that, let's show them the video of the 2-bedroom suite that we looked at I think about a week ago.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so as you know, we are looking for a rental property. We've been looking since April. I think we've already seen 7, 8.
I was going to say like 12.
There were times that we haven't filmed them, and there were times that James looked at by himself and I wasn't there, and there were times that we can't film anything because there were tenants, there were pictures, so we can only film if we are allowed to film. So we have been trying to look for a rental property that would cash flow,
place that the renter will pay more than our monthly mortgage payment.
Okay, so this is the 2-bedroom condo that we looked at 2 weeks ago.
These are vacant as far as I know. Here, do you want to maybe get this big?
I like the floor.
Yeah.
It's new.
Yeah.
And the outside. Yeah. It's quieter. So this is the kitchen.
Yeah. It's like it needs.
And the laundry area. And of course the pantry. This is the master's bedroom. It's not very big, but it has its own bathroom. And merong walk-in closet.
Yeah, but okay, it's a rental, right? So you don't need to really worry about the cost.
Okay, so let's proceed to our last topic, which is how much are we paying for our mortgage and how much is a renter paying for her monthly rent.
So I think we can say that just roughly paying around, say, $2,600 per month for our mortgage.
Yeah, that's not included the property tax though.
No,
Yeah,
it doesn't include
that's
the tax.
only the monthly.
And then there's other bills on top of that, of course, too. So just the mortgage, around $2,600. And then our renter, she pays around $1,200.
Yeah.
So turns out our mortgage for this entire house, our monthly payment is around $1,400.
You're probably wondering, why are we only paying $1,400 and our renter is paying $1,200? It's because we put a huge down payment, but other people who have the same size of the house, they're probably paying like $3,000 or $4,000.
Yeah.
The only reason why we're paying $2,600 is because of the down payment that we put.
And that came from all that equity that we built up from our previous homes.
That is the end of our topic for today, but before we say goodbye to you guys, we want you to see the difference between owning and renting, and we want you to see the good things about owning a property.
It has advantages, and it also takes work.
We didn't own this right away. We had to save a lot of money. We had to sacrifice some of our wants. So if you guys want to save up as well, you should save up for deposits so you don't pay for somebody else's mortgage, because if you're paying for somebody else's mortgage, you are just wasting your money.
Yeah, you're throwing basically you're funding somebody else's investment.
Okay, so that it is for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you again in our next vlog. Bye. Mwah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Hey guys. Hey. Okay. 1, 2, 3, go.
Hang on.
Okay. I'm gonna kiss daddy. I'm gonna kiss daddy.
Oh, I got it.
I'm gonna kiss baby Jamie. I'm gonna kiss baby Jamie. No! I'm gonna kiss Tracy. I'm gonna kiss Tracy.